Hello, FNAFers! The Summer Spring has come and so did FNAF's 10-year anniversary! It has been 10 whole years since 8-year-old me found out about it and became a FNAF fan. And as a way to celebrate this special day, I wanted to revisit and look back at the FNAF lore from back when FNAF 1 through 4 released, and make a whole timeline video about the lore we theorized and believed back in 2014 and 15. In a way, you can call this a retrospective. To create this video, I had to watch about 400 theory videos of FNAF 1 through 4. Which is why this video probably came out a bit late. I admit that there are many theories, so I might not mention every, but I try to fit here the most popular ones. So yeah, I present to you the old FNAF lore. At the time it was known when the company was created, some theorized that 1983 was the year the Freddy's pizzerias were created, but it was also believed that FNAF 1 took place in 1993. And since phone guys said that these animatronics have been around for 20 whole years, a lot also believed that the roots of Fazbear entertainment began all the way back in 1973. But the first restaurant was called Fredbear's Family Diner and had Fredbear and Bonnie as their main mascots, also called Spring Bonnie by the staff. But at the same time, there might have also been Freddy Fazbear's Pizza with Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. One day, a child stood outside, crying, locked away, when a purple car drove by. Out of it stepped out a man, and as she was dying, more tears ran down the child's face, becoming the first victim of the purple guy, who then drove off like nothing ever happened, and the child would later possess the puppet. The man worked at the company, and it was theorized that he created the animatronics because he knew how to tamper with them. During the day, he would help actors put on the spring-lock suits that could be worn by humans and animatronics. The mechanical parts were pulled back by spring locks so that a human could fit inside. However, they were very unstable, and so any contact with moisture could have resulted in a failure, and in turn, death. And so each restaurant had a safe room where the spring lock actors would be brought into, away from the visitors. These rooms were not even marked on the map layouts, and the guests were not allowed into them. Now, these next events were theorized to be in many different parts of the timeline, so I will introduce it here since it is the earliest in the timeline it has been theorized to be by fans. The use of spring-lock suits were eventually discontinued due to a simultaneous spring-lock failure that happened at the sister location, which was theorized to be Fredbear's Family Diner, and that the actors who wore the suits died and became Shadow Freddy and Shadow Bonnie. The night of June 26th, the purple guy struck again, this time wearing a mascot costume to lure kids into the back room during late hours and kill them, developing his murdering signature. At first, only 2 local children were reported missing, but not so long after, 5 were now linked to this event, which became known as the Missing Children Incident. The management noticed that the Spring Bonnie suit was noticeably moved, probably because it was used by the purple guy, and after some time they decided to close off the safe rooms due to, as they say, budget restrictions. But it was theorized that perhaps the real reason was that this was the room that was used to lure the missing children in. since it was one of the only rooms that was not even marked on cameras. But even after surveillance identified a suspect who was convicted, the bodies were never found, as they were stuffed inside the animatronic suits. The puppet gave life to the missing children and made them possess the animatronics so that one day they could take their revenge on their killer. However, after some time passed, parents started reporting what appeared to be blood and mucus around the eyes and mouths of the mascot and a foul odor, which led to eventual shutting down of the place over sanitation. As for why the purple guy killed those kids, it has been theorized that perhaps he wanted revenge to the owners of the company for either firing him or for his youngest son dying due to an accident which took place either before or after the missing children incident. It was also possible that he just did it for fun. And here it has been theorized that perhaps the MCI was what his youngest son saw that made him afraid of the animatronics. The reason people thought so was because later Fredbear plush would remind the son that he saw something, and a girl outside told rumors about the animatronics being alive and killing those who stay inside after hours and hiding their bodies, which was the signature of the possessed animatronics in FNAF 1 and maybe 2. Another proposed theory was that instead he saw someone getting spring-locked in a suit. But no matter what it was, it made him afraid of animatronics, to the point of crying, which led to his older brother, who bullied him to start using a foxy mask to scare him. But the crying child had a Fredbear plush who guided him and acted as a friend for him. This plush was theorized to be possessed by the puppet due to the teleportation and white eyes. On Crying Child's birthday, his older brother and his friends decided it would be fun to put his brother's head into Fredbear's mouth, and when they did, either due to the head being inside the mouth or due to the tears that ran down Crying Child's face, the mouth shut closed, biting onto the poor boy's head. This event became known as the bite, but it has been debated if it was the bite of 87 or 83, due to the FNAF 4 chasers having numbers 87 in the code, which would fit with the FNAF 1's 1987 custom night Easter egg where Golden Freddy would appear. But then, numbers in the teasers changed to 83, which fit with the 1983 date on the TV. After the bite, the child stayed alive for some time, and here there were three theories going on at the time. Theory 1 was that after the bite, the child fell into a coma, and in this coma he saw the nightmares, and that's why we saw hospital things by the bed during the nights. Second theory going around was that the child actually stayed awake and was looked after in his house, but put in a different room from the one we saw in the minigames, because perhaps this one was closer to their father's room or something, and the nightmares were the child's hallucinations caused by the injury, and that the nightmares were just blushes. And the third theory was that we were actually playing as the older brother during the nights, who is seeing the nightmares due to the guilt he felt after the bite. No matter which theory was correct, after some time, Crying Child died. But before so, his older brother said he's sorry. But there was also someone else who promised the child to put them back together. Some theorized that it was still the puppet speaking, and some theorized that somehow it was the purple guy speaking. After Crying Child's death, he was theorized to have possessed Golden Freddy, due to it being the animatronic that beat him it being a floating head in FNAF 2, in FNAF 1 appearing when we died in 1987, and in FNAF 3, Happiest Day reminding a lot of crying child's birthday. Another theory proposed that the child murdered outside of the pizzeria possessed Golden Freddy, while the crying child possessed the puppet, due to the crying puppet image in FNAF 3. Eventually, Fredbear's closes, and in 1987 a new Freddy Fazbear's Pizza opens with toy animatronics with inbuilt face recognition systems that would check the criminal database, but unfortunately even that didn't help. The first night guard, after finishing his first week, complained about the animatronics trying to get into his office, and was switched to day shift. Who was this first night guard, who is now a day shift guard, is unknown. One guy claimed that they are not sure why that happened, and that they theorize that maybe since the animatronics are programmed to go where people are to entertain them, during the night, since the guard is the only person in the building, they try to get into the office. To the second night guard, Jeremy, one guy tells him that the animatronics also think that the guards are skeletons, and so try to stuff them into a suit, perhaps meaning they were possessed. During Jeremy's fourth night, Phone Guy tells him that there has been an investigation going on in the building, and someone might have tampered with the animatronic face recognition systems, and that they act just fine with the kids, but stare at the adults and act almost aggressively with the staff. And then on night 5, he tells us that the building is on a lockdown, and that Jeremy might be moved to a day shift due to a position mysteriously being available now. But Jeremy comes for night 6, even though he wasn't supposed to be there, due to the place being closed down. And Fonge says that someone used one of the spare yellow suits in the back, and tells Jeremy to come tomorrow to the day shift and stay close to the animatronics, and that there will be a birthday party, after which the pizzeria closes down. And finally, on night 7, someone named Fritz Smith comes as the third night guard and tampers with the animatronics and gets fired for it, with a note saying, "First day on the job? Really?" This third night guard was theorized to be the purple guy, who perhaps was the first night guard, and got fired the first time for tampering with them earlier. In the minigames, we see how he is in the building with a security badge attacking Freddy. Around the building, we see 5 dead bodies scattered around, and a voice probably belonged to the puppet who led Freddy to the purple guy, spelling out, "Save them." But then we see the words, "You can't." Purple guy struck again and took the life of 5 more kids. Or were both killing sprees the same one? At the same time, an event known as the Bite of 87 happens, where someone had their front lobe bit by an animatronic and survived, which we hear about from Phone Guy only in FNAF 1. If this is not the bite from FNAF 4, that purple guy tampered with the animatronic that beat that person, and the most common suspect was Mangle, due to how she jumped onto our head in the jump scare. And she is one of the most dangerous animatronics with sharp teeth at the location, which was probably the only active Freddy's at the time. About 6 years later, in 1993, Phone Guy takes the position of a night guard at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, which might have been the same exact one that closed down before FNAF 2, or maybe it never closed, and we are playing the same year as its closure. The company got rid of the toy animatronics that were unsafe and used the old ones in some way. After 3 nights of surviving and recording tapes for the next night guard Mike Schmidt, on the 4th night he was killed presumably by Golden Freddy, based on its scream. While Mike, after surviving for 6 nights, tampered with the animatronics on the 7th night and gets fired for it, and general unprofessionalism. Sometime after the closure of Freddy's, Purple Guy decides to come back to dismantle the animatronics. For what purpose, it was unknown, but it was assumed that he knew of their possession and came back to destroy them because of it. And so, one by one, Shadow Freddy lured them to the safe room, which the animatronics could not see, making it the perfect spot for the Purple Guy to strike again. But the missing children knew that he would come back to the pizzeria, as he always came back. And this time, they had a place for him. When the ghosts surrounded him, out of fear, he put on the spring bonnet suit, thinking it would fool them. But as he started laughing under a leaking roof, the spring lock snapped and he started to convulse in pain as he died. The missing children had their revenge and now were free, but they didn't go just yet, because they had a role in Puppet's plan to give the crying child his happiest day that he never got and make him rest. And so she recreated his birthday party with the missing children and gave him the cake. He put on his golden Freddy mask and now could rest. And their masks fell to the floor. But Puppet's mask fell much slower and less due to her still having unfinished business. The puppet wasn't there when the Purple Guy got springlocked. She didn't have her revenge just yet, and so she gave life to Springtrap to make him suffer like all the ones he killed. 30 years after Freddy's closed, a company decided to make Fazbear's Fright, the horror attraction, based on the old pizzerias and the murders that happened there. At first, they found just empty shells, a hand, a hook, and an old paper plate doll. But then, some guy that helped design the building told them about an extra room that got sealed off. And inside, they found Springtrap and brought him to the attraction. But the puppet followed him to the attraction, which she would not let him escape from, and kept him alive inside, not letting him die and rest. As for the night guard, he was at the attraction before, but now he has been given the job of a night guard. He would use the outer cues to lure Springtrap away, which was due to Spring Bonnie's programming, which made him go where the kids were. But on night 6, it was theorized that he actually did not come, and the nightmare night was indeed a nightmare. And while he was at home, the attraction burned to the ground overnight. But the authorities could not find anybody or anything to point at it being someone's doing. It has been theorized that it was Springtrap who started the fire with faulty wiring to burn himself so that he could die again and finally rest. Very little was found at the scene, but if we lit up the newspaper, we could see that Springtrap survived, and so we knew that the puppet did as well, because as long as the puppet is around, so would Springtrap, because she would never let him go, she would never let him rest. So yeah, that's the lore and theories people believed back in the day when we had only 4 games to base off from. Although I do want to mention another theory that I did not mention in the timeline as it conflicted with the Purple Guy's story, and that is Purple Guy and Pink Guy being different people. But there was more to it. The theory was that Pink Guy was the murderer, while the Purple Guy was actually innocent and was just going from a pizzeria to a pizzeria looking for his youngest son, who possessed an animatronic, and he wanted to free the spirits. But when they surrounded him, he got scared and tried to hide in the suit and died in the process. While the FNAF 3 night guard was the older son, who came looking for his father, but if Springtrap got to him, he would die out of a heart attack. Which people said about all their other animatronics too, like Foxy in FNAF 1. Now, even though this theory might sound really funny at first, shockingly it somehow actually is still quite accurate to what some theorists believe and know now. Like the FNAF 3 night guard being the older son Mike, who so happens to be purple going around from a pizzeria to a pizzeria looking for his father, who is Springtrap, and probably for his younger brother too. Another interesting theory I wanted to point out that I think is funny how accurate it is now is that the puppet in the old theories was basically the one you should not have killed, with how she did not want to let Springtrap die and rest, wanting him to suffer forever. As for other theories, interestingly not much has changed and a lot of these theories are still believed by some people and some are straight up confirmed, like Mike being the one we play as during the nights in FNAF 4 and the nightmares being some kind of hallucinations. William being the creator of the animatronics, being the one to speak through the plush and also killing at least Charlie as revenge or out of jealousy to the owner of the company, which ended up being him and Henry. So the lore hasn't really changed much since then and only got more explained and extended. I must admit now that after all this time it was very satisfying to finally dive into the old FNAF lore and forget about all the remnant and agony mimics and other sci-fi nonsense that I don't like about FNAF nowadays. It has been very fulfilling to just let go of it and talk about the old theories. So yeah, tell me in the comments what do you think of this video, what do you think of the past theories and lore we theorized back in 2014 and 15, or you can join my Discord servers in the description below and talk about it there. But for now, that's it. Subscribe to my channel to not miss any of my videos, press that like button with a bell, and remember, I always come back.